That's right. The exact Obama quote on ISIS, they're a bunch of killers with good social media. That's all. Just a bunch of killers, good social media. Nothing to see here. Greetings and welcome back. You are tuned to the most listened to radio talk show in America. El Rushbo, the all-knowing, all-caring, all-sensing, all-feeling, all-concerned, all-everything Maharishi. Happy to be with you. Telephone number is 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.com. Paris attacks have only made Donald Trump stronger. This is polling data here from Washington Post ABC News. I want to give you some of the numbers here because the drive-by media and the Republican establishment have all believed that Trump's comments on Muslims and on Islam there's another controversy running around now that Trump says that he saw thousands of Muslims cheering in New Jersey on 9/11. You know, this is quite instructive, too. Trump has said it before, and they asked him about it, and he insists he saw it. And so the drive-bys, the AP, the New York Times, the Washington Post, every one of them got their fact-checkers in gear and up to speed, and they searched every news database they could find, they said. And they can't find any evidence by way of news stories that Muslims were cheering in the United States, particularly in New Jersey, on the day 9/11 happened. Except the Washington Post did have a story chronicling the fact that Muslims were cheering in New Jersey on 9/11. And their own fact-checker, a guy named Glenn Kessler, overlooked it and didn't think to include it in his fact-check. So you have all these drive-by people scouring the LexisNexis database. They're looking at everything. They tell us they're scouring everything they can find for any evidence that there was what Trump saw. And they conclude that Trump was getting 15 Pinocchios here or whatever because they can't find any evidence. And the Washington Post own fact-checker didn't even check his own paper. A lot of people have found the link in the Washington Post. They had a story about cheering Muslims in New Jersey on 9/11. Now, it wasn't the tens of thousands that Trump said he saw, but it was cheering Muslims on 9/11. Trump said he saw it. He said he knew it happened. They're trying to say Trump's making it up to impugn and insult Muslims. So all these drive-bys begin their fact-checking, and they can't find any, and right there it was in the Washington Post. It was right there, and their own fact-checker decided to not look at his own paper, or maybe he did and saw that story and said, well, this is not tens or thousands. Trump made it up and just didn't even bother to include it. But the point is, every time they try this, Trump goes up. None of this hurts Trump. Violating political correctness has not hurt Trump. Voicing opinions that the inside Washington establishment finds reprehensible does not hurt Trump. It only helps him. The Republican Party in its own way is blind to what is happening. I mean, Trump is broadening the base of the party. All the while, the Republican base is worried that he's shrinking it while claiming they want to broaden the base. The Democrats and the left are just hoping that, like anything, that Trump's going to embarrass himself and say something that causes people who are supporting him to abandon him. And they're applying their own sensitivities to this, meaning they would be profoundly embarrassed, and they would be terribly angry if any of them ever said what Trump said about Muslims. So they think everybody would react the way they do. Let me give you another example. It's a better one. Remember when Mike Pence, the governor of Indiana, signed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act? Okay, well, and it was fascinating to watch because the media ran stories making it look like the entire country was outraged at Indiana and at Governor Pence. And then when some reporter found this mom-and-pop pizza store that said they would not cater a gay wedding, the media wrote about it as though everybody in America thought that this little pizza store family should be put in jail. I mean, everybody disagreed, and it wasn't the case. The vast majority of people did not disagree with what Indiana had done, but the media juxtaposes their own point of view on the whole country and assumes the whole country thinks and feels the way they do about things. Ergo, when they think Trump says something that's the equivalent of stepping in it, they think everybody reacts that way. And so when it doesn't happen, when Trump is not harmed and when he's not hurt, in fact, when he gains ground, they are left stymied. And in those circumstances, where we are right now, they become even more committed to taking him out just to prove they can do it. Because after all, that's one of their objectives, destroying powerful people with whom they disagree. That's how you get a gold star. That's how you get your merit badge as a media Cub Scout. That's how you climb the ladder of success. One of the things that you prove you're able to do is destroy somebody in power, particularly if they're Republican or conservative. But in this Washington Post, ABC News poll, Donald Trump leads among most demographic groups. He leads with men by 10 points. He leads with women by 11. You realize that's not supposed to happen. Women are supposed to hate Trump. You know why? Well, because he's braggadocious. He's too sure of himself. He's too confident, and he wants to have too much power. Yeah, it was anti-woman. Well, all that means that he's anti-woman. Here he is leading with women by 11. He leads among the very conservative by 1 point. He leads among moderates by 16. If you ask me, Donald Trump is the ideal Republican establishment candidate. Let me repeat myself. I'm sorry to be redundant, but remember, you got Ed Rollins and all these establishment guys thinking that what Trump's saying and doing is harming the Republican brand. They think they need to broaden their base. They need to get Hispanic votes. They need to get people besides Republicans voting, or they're never going to win the White House again. Well, that's what Trump is doing. The Republican establishment thinks that Trump's support is 100% from the conservative Republican base, which the Republican establishment resents. When you break it down, Trump's demographics are all over the place. Blue-collar voters, he leads by a significant margin. So let me go through this again. He leads with men by 10 points, with women by 11. Among the very conservative, he leads by 1 point. The very conservative are divided between Carson and Cruz here, folks. You know, if I'm Ed Rollins or anybody in the Republican establishment, I look at this ABC Washington Post poll and see that Trump leads very conservative by only 1 point. Why, man, this is what they wanted Jeb to do. Moderates, he's winning by 16. I mean, that's orgasm material for these people. Moderates, independents, oh my God, they can barely keep their pants up. They're probably so excited. He leads among those with a college degree by 2 points. He leads among people without a college degree by 14. And there is the rub. That's where it all breaks down. That gets translated. Trump has the deliverance vote by 14 points, but the Harvard vote by 1. And you can't support a guy that doesn't have the support of Ivy League intellectuals. Because that's who the drive-bys think they are. That's who they think their friends are. And not the deliverance crowd with the pro-lifers, think of it that way. The only group where Trump trails, evangelicals. Ben Carson leads with evangelicals by 8 points over everybody else. Now, part of that is certainly that Carson has plummeted. I mean, this is the story here by Philip Muntherson. One of the reasons that Trump has this significant lead in all these demographic groups is that Carson is losing support since the day before the Paris terror attacks. Carson's polling average has fallen nearly 5 points from 24 to 19. Trump has risen 3 points, 24.8 to 27.5. So the Paris attacks have not hurt Trump. They have made Trump stronger. And he is coming down hard on all of this. And he's taking no prisoners. And he is shocking the establishment by getting away with it. TheHill.com, Donald Trump remains atop the crowded GOP field in a new Washington Post poll with 32%. This is overall. This is above and beyond the demographics and the splits that I just gave you. Here's the Politico. Why the Muslim database comment won't doom Trump. They don't like writing that headline. They like even less writing the story. In the last 24 hours, how the story begins. In the last 24 hours, Donald Trump has said he absolutely would implement a database of American Muslims and that participation would have to be compulsory. He did not say it. He was not. Don't make me go through. I'm bored explaining this. Trump's leaving the stage. He's signing. He's amidst autograph seekers and supporters, and some media guy worms his way in there and starts asking Trump about his wall and the Mexican immigration. In the middle of it, starts asking a question about registering Muslims. Trump thinks, for all intents and purposes, Trump thinks he's still answering questions about the wall and Southern immigration. Now, one thing has to be said. Trump was set up. This was a total setup, and Trump fell for it. At some point, Trump's going to have to be aware that this kind of stuff, right now it's not hurting him, but this was a total setup. And he just wasn't paying attention to the guy. And I know why. He doesn't think the media can hurt him. He's not like your average Republican or average citizen who is reduced to paralysis when the media shows up. Trump just doesn't care. So this little guy's asking him questions, and Trump's signing autographs, and he's just finished an hour and a half on stage, and he's wanting out of there, and he's answering the questions almost in a generic rote form. Not even aware the guy's asking him about a Muslim database. Trump's answers don't even specifically mention Muslims or database. When he does get specific, he talks about a wall and the border and keeping them out. This story is devoted to the premise of why Trump making remarks on the Muslim database will not doom him, even though he didn't say it. Here's the paragraph of note. Is Trump's campaign imploding? Fat chance. Just as Trump's provocations aimed at Mexican immigrants and John McCain's war record have fueled his presidential run rather than destroyed it, his latest demagoguery on Muslims plays straight into his populist appeal. In other words, these people think that it's the Republican base propping up Trump, supporting Trump, and that they're haters. This is the way, and this is the value of this story to these people. Totally made up story, totally made up subject line, so that they can then impugn Trump supporters as hateful racists and bigots. That's what they want to write, and that's what they did write. And the reason Trump won't be hurt is because all you Trump supporters are basically Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals who hate everybody that doesn't look like you. That's what they want to write.